Hello everybody, welcome to another Pokéstoric video. This time, we will be covering 5 extinct egg-laying animals for Easter 2023. And of course, I'll just show this clip for people new to this series. Hello, it's me, and I'll be covering what this video will be about. This video has 5 main segments. Each segment is about one subject, whether it's an extinct animal, anime character, mythical monster, or whatever. For each of those segments, you have an artist, me included, who will make Pokemon based on those subjects. This may include evolutions, megaforms, or various other forms. You'll just have to wait and see. Before I show the Pocket Monsters, I do like to educate you on the subject in hand. For example, educating about the Mosasaurus and other information surrounding it. For those Pokemon fans who like details like stats and abilities, I also cover those. Although I'll save moves and comparative details for the final evolutions or biggest form unless multiple forms have something unique to offer. So that's enough from this me, thank you so much for listening, and now back to the current me or whoever they are. Thank you me, let's start the video. Our first entry is a fish? What? I mean, they do lay eggs, so it counts. Anyway, here's the giant fish called Mawsonia. Mawsonia was named by J. Mawson and British paleontologist Arthur Smith Woodward in 1907. Clearly, it was named after the former, who I don't know who they actually are. Numerous fossils of the genus have been found, a few of them almost complete. The most common of these are their skulls. Most specimens are actually quite small, since larger specimens are harder to preserve. Mawsonia had 6 fins, 2 on the top of its back, 2 on its sides, and 1 at the end of its tail, and 1 at the bottom of the tail. I don't know if that makes any grammatical sense. Instead of teeth, Mawsonia's mouth is covered in small 1 to 2 mm denticles, which are tooth-like projections. I might need to be corrected on that. While its diet and method of feeding is uncertain, it may have either used its teeth-like denticles to crush hard-shelled organisms or swallow their prey whole using suction feeding. As odd as it may seem, Mawsonia is in fact a member of the coelacanths, like the modern Latimeria. Comparing Mawsonia to Latimeria, it isn't certain if it's nocturnal like other coelacanths. While it did live in freshwater and brackish environments, they tend to live in shallower waters than their modern counterparts. This is evidenced by the formations the fossils were found in being estuarine and mangroves during the Cretaceous. Despite these fish being apex predators in the waters they live in, they are speculated to fall prey to the infamous Spinosaurus, which many artistic interpretations show. Wait. We have a huge fish, and Mudkip isn't here to drool over it. Also, I remember last year Mudkip didn't say anything about its Copa pupfish.
Because I don't like my fish burned. Also, I'm kinda scared that a Spinner might kill me if it sees me eating a Mawsonia.
Dude, you're able to crush boulders and somehow learn Hyper Beam? Why would Spinosaurus scare you?
Never mind.
Okay, let's just see what this giant coelacanth would look like as a Pokemon. Upon recent studies, this variant of Finneon were able to grow even larger. This enabled them to not fall prey to predators and even intimidate them with their vibrant colours. At night, they glow a brilliant shade of fairy pink, which is a beautiful display on romantic nights. Here's Finneon! Yes, again, because I'll admit, while I do love this design, I did feel it deserved a bit more.
And it wasn't even worth eating as it was tiny.
Actually, they grow a lot bigger now.
What?
Oh no. I'll keep this brief as you guys have seen it before. For stats, this Finneon is more specially orientated, and you may notice it has 10 more special defense compared to last year's Easter video, mainly because I was off with the stat total for Finneon. For abilities, they remain the same as before. Now, yep, I know you guys will, I know, you see it. Let's check to see what Finneon evolves into, yeah? Oh, it points to anyone who actually guesses it from the silhouette, but it's not really that hard to be honest. It is found that the variant of Finneon grew to large sizes due to the energy needed to evolve. Lumineon may not be the fastest of swimmers, but make up for it with their agility. They glow a spectacular array of colours, although shades of crystal blue and pink are the most common. Lumineon are even able to fly out the water for short periods of time, much like Mantike and Mantine. Is he gone? While Finneon is cute, Lumineon carries grace and elegance with its design while retaining some cuteness.
I'm gonna get you.
For stats, Lumineon has the most emphasis on bulk and some good speed. For abilities, they remain the same as before. Compared to the Sinnoh variant of Lumineon, this fairy fish has less physical attack, physical defense, and speed in favor of specializing in being a specially orientated Pokemon. So, the moment we all been waiting for. Let's see what Mawsonia-like fish this Lumineon evolves into. While Mawsoneon are deadly predators, they rarely attack people. Mawsoneon are known to be great parents, carrying their 100 eggs in their wing-like fins. Even after the eggs hatch, the young still reside in the adult's fins until they mature. Compared to Lumineon, Mawsoneon are not able to fly, and their bioluminescence is not as brilliant. However, as they are able to control the intensity of their bioluminescence, the light they emit pulsate in various patterns. The flashing light idea actually was inspired by the sharks from the series The Future is Wild. Anyhow, this is a new evolution, Mawsoneon. Actually, you could say it's a bit like a Hisuian variant, since these Pokemon are found in the Sinnoh region, but at the same time, that makes no sense, because all Hisuian Pokemon are actually not native to Sinnoh, or I don't know. While it isn't very cute in my opinion, it becomes even more beautiful with its bright colours on its large, plenty-finned body. Such a gorgeous design. Good thing I had to use a few calm minds earlier. For stats, Mawsoneon is a special wall, with good special attack, HP, and speed. Its worst stat, its physical attack, is also quite decent. For abilities, both regular abilities would work great for Mawsoneon. However, it gains a new hidden ability called Pixie Veil. Basically, it works like Heal Bell, but with the use of terrains. For moves, you have plenty of special moves, Signal Beam, Ice Beam, and Silver Wind, countering grass types. If that's not enough, you can boost Mawsoneon's stats with Tail Glow and Calm Mind. You can even have some recovery moves like Aqua Wing and Roost. Looking at a set with Pixie Veil, Misty Terrain would certainly offer support. You can either switch it in, use Misty Terrain, and switch out, which would be good for singles, but would be great in double and triple battles, as it and its allies would be immune to any status-inflicting moves like Toxic and Confuse Ray, unless the opposing Pokemon has Mold Breaker or Neutralizing Gas, or if the allied Pokemon are off the ground like Flying types or Pokemon with Levitate. But imagine using Petal Dance or holding a Toxic Orb without worrying about getting the status effect. With this, you can recover using Aqua Ring and Roost to keep the effect active while the terrain is in effect. Tapu Fini and Galarian Weezing are great for setting up Misty Terrain, thanks to their ability Misty Surge, which summons the terrain upon entering the battle. If you prefer to have Mawsoneon in the rain, it can work with that too. If you have Swift Swim, then moves like Hurricane will be devastating against your opponents. For extra speed, you can have Tailwind or Agility to make Mawsonia one heck of a speed devil. While it is a potential beast, Mawsoneon would still have trouble against physical poison and electric types, like Toxicity. Actually, I think it's a special attacker. Sets that require weather or terrain could get replaced with any other kind of said effect. Harsh Sunlight halves the power of water moves, grassy and electric terrains boost super effective damage against Mawsoneon. As stated before, terrain effects don't affect Pokemon above the ground. So, if the opposing Pokemon can make everyone float, Mawsoneon's Pixie Veil would be useless to defend against status conditions. Telekinesis would certainly be an annoying move to face, as they can make your Pokemon vulnerable to status conditions in the air, so consider having an allied Pokemon with gravity to help counter that. Overall, Mawsoneon I hope holds a lot of potential as either support or being a sweeping monster. I would like to thank Pinky Poke, or known as Pokéfan Jess. I will admit, this is a commission, and I wanted to give Finneon a new evolution. However, Pinky Poke did choose Mawsonia as the animal to, base their Pokemon on. Thank you for accepting this and, just making the designs, really. Oh, also, you got these gorgeous shinies, which, again, thank you for doing them, that have a tropical and even more vibrant appearance. Also, can I just admit, green and blue are my favourite colours. If you want to check them out, then you'll find their socials on the screen, but I'll also put them in the description. From an animal possibly hunted by a dinosaur to an actual dinosaur, we have the shielded Bissektipelta. The first specimen was discovered in September 1998 in the Bissektipelta formation of Uzbekistan by the joint Uzbek-Russian-British-American project. This specimen is the only one known so far, being a well-preserved brain case with a partial skull roof, along with isolated teeth and osteoderms. While some sites say 2 more specimens have been referred in 2020 by Kuzmin and colleagues, consisting of one smaller brain case and another similarly sized brain case, they don't offer much information, so I can't entirely trust that. In 2002, Alexander Avrianov, based on his find, named it as a second genus called Amptosaurus archibaldi. The species name honors James David Archibald, who led the URBAC project, URBAC meaning Uzbekistan, Russia, Britain, America, and Canada. Said project performing the excavation. However, in 2004, Joylon Parish and Paul Barrett concluded that the type species of Amptosaurus, Amptosaurus magnus, was a genus of hadrosaur. Due to this, A. archibaldi was moved to its own genus, Bissektipelta. When paleontologists from St. Petersburg University studied the brain case, they found that Bissektipelta had a great sense of smell. It was able to hear lower frequencies from 103,000 Hz, much like modern crocodiles, and use psychological mechanisms for precise temperature control of neurosensory tissues, otherwise its brain. While there isn't a lot of information on the animal itself, it was still an interesting animal to look into. Also, finding a brain case is a big deal in paleontology, so it tells us a lot about their mindset and behavior. Also, tissues like the brain decompose very fast, from what I understand. Anyway, let's see what this level-headed shielded dinosaur would look like as a Pokemon. Bisshamirch's internal temperatures match that of Camerupt, underneath a layer of magma that can be seen from its back. Bisshamirch can control these internal temperatures when forging metal armor and blunt weaponry. This is Bisshamirch! Okay, that may be a difficult name to pronounce, but it's the best I could come up with considering the concept with this Pokemon. The name I contrived from Bissektipelta, Temirchi, which is Uzbek for blacksmith, and I also included the name of a blacksmith from Uzbeki, Sakamid Shamakadov, who he and his family took in refugees during the Second World War. If I remember, there is a statue commemorated to them, which is cool. Yes, I did try to make this design connect with Bissektipelta. Anyway, I love this idea, and it does work well for the shield of Bissekti, in form of an Ankylosaurian blacksmith. For stats, Bisshamirch is physically oriented but has good special defense and HP. For abilities, we have Flame Body and Sturdy as the regulars and Flash Fire as the hidden. As you can tell, this is like a physical tank version of Heatran. For moves, I themed it around metal forgery, weaponry, and of course hammers. Speaking of hammers, we have a new move called Mega Hammer, which is a very powerful move, but it does come at a cost, as you can tell. If that isn't enough, we have a new terrain, Magma Terrain. This makes rock and steel types become frailer for speed, as you expect fire moves deal more damage. In sunlight, these effects are doubled, making this terrain quite formidable. For me, I believe Bisshamirch would be an amazing asset for sun teams, and here's why. If the sun is already out, you can switch this Pokemon in with Flash Fire if you know your opponent will use a fire type move, giving the Magma Tank's fire moves some extra heat. You can then set up Magma Terrain to boost the power of those fire moves even further. This will also give Bisshamirch some extra speed at the cost of defense. If you're able to, you can set up a Sword Stance or two. After all that, Magma Hammer will do a ton of damage. Of course, you can pull a big brain move by going with a non-fire type move like Dragon Hammer or Gigaton Hammer if you suspect your opponent will switch out. This method is a bit niche and specific, but it can be flexible depending on the situation you find yourself in. If you want to go defensive, you have Amnesia and Eye Defense. Of course, one glaring issue for Bisshamirch is its quad weakness to ground moves. Specifically in Earth Power form a Heatran or worse, a Camerupt, considering Camerupt is a ground type so would gain stab. Overall, Bisshamirch would work best as a bulky sweeper or plain tank, especially thanks to its steel typing. I would like to thank Joshua Dunlop for doing this commissioned piece for me. Yeah, this is another commissioned piece, which I'll admit was very ambitious, but I really just wanted him to take part because I do love his work. I won't go into too much detail, but basically, eventually we decided on an Ankylosaurian that was, well, basically around magma and blacksmith sort of concept. It's really cool. I love the execution. Very creative. Also, its shiny was something I suggested. You know, he asked me, like, what would I like? And I said, you know, something like copper. You know, I like the copper coloration. But if the magma was like a bright blue, you know, to express how hot it is, you know, Mega Charizard has the same thing. That would be really cool. And, you know, he did it. It's absolutely brilliant. The magma giving off a bright aqua blue. You know, just, oh, it's really great. Anyway, yeah, if you want to check this guy out, then here are his socials. I don't know what he wants me to put on the screen, but yeah, please check him out. He's amazing. Like, he's even done like realistic 3D models of Pokemon as well. Please check him out. Now we sprint into the Xenozoic, much like this giant predatory bird. Well, this is not a tongue twister. Anyway, here's Phorusrhacos. Remains of a mandible were found among the bones from the Santa Cruz formations and were discovered by Florentino Amerigo in early 1887. He also named the animal soon after. Originally, it was thought to be a mammal until a few years later when it was realised it was of a bird. The skull itself was up to 65 centimeters long, very large for any bird I know of. This skull ended with a massive hooked beak that can easily tear into flesh or stab their prey. Either that or puncturing the head of their prey, causing the receiver major brain damage, shock, then death. That's kind of brutal, I'm not gonna lie. If that's not enough, it had long and powerful legs, helping it run at great speeds. Considering their prey included prehistoric horses, they could have reached speeds of 30 miles per hour. I mean, I'll admit, that was sort of a guess. At the end of these legs were sharp claws, which it would have used its weight to push into its prey's body. Phorusrhacos thought to have lived in the woodlands and grasslands, the latter being great for its speed. It would have hunted by staying among the shrubs and trees, enabling it to blend into the scenery. When its prey draws near, the bird strikes with devastating speed before the victim could react, the tall bird using their beak and claws to take it down. There's another terror bird named Titanus that is suggested to actually belong to the same genus as Phorusrhacos due to how similar they appear. However, Titanus had a robust build and a shorter neck to support a heavier skull. At the moment, Titanus is in its own genus. Surprisingly, Phorusrhacos and other terror birds have modern relatives, that being the Sariema birds that live in the same continent Phorusrhacos once did. Both birds belong to the order Cariameae. This giant carnivorous bird likely went extinct after the formation of the land bridge between North and South America, known as the Isthmus of Panama, about 2.7 million years ago. During this time, several animals of North America crossed over to the south, possibly including the infamous Smilodon. With the increasing competition for food with the North American arrivals, Phorusrhacos couldn't keep up, leading to their demise. No joke, I'm happy to have more terror birds in the series. They're so unique compared to birds today, being giant, agile, and skull-bashing birdies. And yes, I would be terrified if I ever seen one. I mean, you know, you see one, like you can't outrun it, you know, and if you try, it'll just catch up with you and bash your skull in. Yep, and my brains are for dinner. Shame, if that ever happened to me, then no one's gonna help, like, hold a torch for me.
Yeah, no, other YouTubers cover similar topics, right?
Yeah, I know there's many other YouTubers out there who did cover similar content and do plan to cover similar content. Anyway, let's see what this terrifying terror bird would look like as a Pokemon. This Pokemon resembles a creature depicted in an old journal, said to be the animated corpse of a dead dinosaur Pokemon. Wow, just wow. Not only does this design capture the terror of Phorusrhacos, but has the ferocity of a Therizinosaur.
What is it a paradox of?
Oh, hi, how are you?
Apart from a few moon bruises, I'm doing okay. So...
Oh yes, it's a paradox form of a mandibuzz, which can be seen in the colour palette and obviously all the bones. So the artist told me that with the concept, they looked into the general terror bird, a Therizinosaur, and another animal that I will not mention yet, maybe because, you know, it'll be the literal next entry in this video. They wanted to make something less scientific and more romanticized for this design, like early concepts of dinosaurs, capturing the childlike imagination. I will admit, I love that, as early restorations of prehistoric animals are a good inspiration for some unique and creative Pokemon designs. My opinion of it, as I said earlier, is just completely amazing. Like, just so much detail, so much energy in it. It's so blue and good. For stats, the Stalking Corpse has insane attack, followed by almost as insane speed. Obviously it's frail, but it will be tough to take out. For its ability, we have Photosynthesis, which all prehistoric Paradox Pokemon have, making the lethal pile of bones even more so. For moves, we have quite a lot to choose from. All will deal great damage and offer versatility. While the Stalking Corpse is frail, it does have 3 immunities thanks to its typing: Psychic, Normal, and Fighting. Actually, it sounds like Hisuian and Zoroark, but minus the Fighting. No, is it Normal Ghost type? It's immune to Ghost, Normal, and Fighting. Yeah. Furthermore, if you think you can outspeed it with a priority move, remember, Dark types are immune to priority moves, if I remember correctly. To be honest, I'm not even going to try to evaluate its competitive potential, as it's pretty insane. And don't think I didn't notice its insane weight either. Like, what I've been hearing a bit about Paradox Pokemon, I can imagine this thing being used a lot. Maybe even being used in Ubers. Possibly getting banned for how overpowered it is. I would like to thank OscarReviewz for doing this design. I mean, originally this was for another video, but we both decided that this would work better here. Well, actually it works both ways, but it works here too, and, you know, I like it. It could have worked with the dinosaur as well, but I think, having it be like, imagine if Phorusrhacos like had like large claws as well as great speed in that. That'd be scary. It'd be, I don't know, what's like really fast and has really long claws? Like, I can't think. Oh, and the shiny here is somewhat subtle, but I still think it's better than many shinies. Basically, it's very saturated, with the bones becoming like a somewhat of a golden color. If you want to check this artist out, you'll find the links in the description below, but you know, see what's on screen too. From a giant terrestrial bird with a massive skull to a heavy but avian bird, we have Argentavis. Fossils of Argentavis were first found in Argentina in 1979. Obviously, in 1980, the bird was named after the first find by Campbell and Tony. Oh, the species name means magnificent. Very creative. Sometimes, however, it's called the giant pterodon, the nickname being coined in 2006. To support the naming, Argentavis belonged to an extinct family of birds called the pterodons, also known as monster birds. And magnificently monstrous it was, being a similar size to the Cessna 152 light aircraft. Yes, a freaking plane! This makes it one of the largest ever avian birds known, double the size of the largest avian bird today, the wandering albatross. While Argentavis is the heaviest avian bird known, when it comes to wingspan, Pelagornis sandersi surpasses Argentavis with a potential wingspan being 20% wider. Argentavis also boasts long feathers, being up to 1.5 meters long. Despite being a massive aviator, the fossils discovered show that Argentavis' breast muscles were not strong enough to flap hard enough to get it off the ground. Plus their wings were too long, touching the floor if they tried to take off from the ground. So how did Argentavis get off the ground? Well, the giant would have used mountain slopes and headwinds to take off, hardly needing to flap, although it would have depended on the strength of the wind. This does mean Argentavis would have been an active flyer, using thermal currents to keep it airborne. In case you didn't know, this is where it uses the boundary between two air masses to pick up speed by cartwheeling into oncoming wind, and using the wind speed to accelerate itself forward. This method of flight is known as dynamic soaring. Argentavis repeated this to ensure an efficient form of flight that uses less energy. It would only have flapped when travelling short distances. Dynamic soaring is actually a method some people use when paragliding. While it was primarily adapted to gliding, Argentavis did have stout and long legs, enabling it to walk with ease. However, they weren't powerful when gripping onto flesh. When it comes to its dietary habits, Argentavis would have had a similar lifestyle as modern vultures and condors, specifically the Andean condor, scanning their 200 to 500 square kilometer territory for carrion. If they are not looking for carrion, they would be looking for small live prey, like large rodents, small armadillos, and young of large animals, like ground sloths. Looking at the structure of its skull, it would have been capable of swallowing the majority of their prey whole. Well, that would be like the smaller ones. It'd be very weird if it could swallow a whole baby sloth. And I'm talking about a giant sloth, I'm not talking about like regular sloths. When taking down their prey, Argentavis strikes with a swooping ambush, grabbing the unfortunate with its bill, making the kill, and swallowing them whole. All without landing. Yikes. That's one way to go. Kind of reminds me of a drive-through. Although it'll be more like a fly-through or glide-through. To satiate its appetite, Argentavis will need 2.5 to 5 kilograms of meat each day. Argentavis had a hooked beak that were oddly like an eagle's compared to modern vultures and condors, effective at holding onto their prey. According to AZ Animals, this beak also contained teeth like spikes. Because of their large size and ability to fly, Argentavis likely didn't die from being hunted, mainly passing from old age or disease, potentially living till 50 to 100 years. They would have used their size to their advantage by intimidating any carnivore such as Thylacolus from hunting it down, or to steal kills from other predators or scavengers like the previous entry, Phorusrhacos and Calican. Looking at today's vultures and condors, Argentavis likely laid 1 or 2 eggs weighing over a kilo, slightly smaller than the ostriches. Argentavis would have laid these eggs every 2 years and incubated over the winter, the mating partners exchanging duties of incubating and finding food. The young would become independent after around 16 months but won't fully mature until they become 12 years old. Although it isn't certain why this magnificent bird went extinct, it could have been due to less food being available as the earth warmed up. It likely crossed paths with ancient humans around 15 to 20,000 years ago, suggesting that humans played a part in Argentavis' extinction. Whew, that's a lot to write and to read, although actually not as much as I thought it was. Anyway, yes, we have 2 bird entries to this video, both giants from South America and certainly would have interacted with each other as I stated before. Argentavis and Phorusrhacos are some of the few examples of dinosaurs not giving up with becoming big and dominant, although at the moment it's all in vain. I mean, I like giant birds, they're cool, but as mentioned before, I'm kinda glad I don't have to see one. I mean, yes, I know we got some big birds today, but they're not predatory birds or big enough to actually hunt down a fully grown man. Watch out for your chihuahua though. So let's see what this heavy eagle vulture thing would look like as a Pokemon. Its shell is filled with feelings of courage and bravery. It shares these feelings towards people who treat it with kindness. This Pokemon has a brave disposition and is always ready to face any opponent, no matter how strong. As such, it is considered to be a symbol of bravery. If you've thought we're done with the familiar faces, we have a variant of Togepi. You can tell this little guy is livelier than the Cantonian counterpart. Its patterns are even more fierce. For stats, Togepi is a fast physical attacker. For abilities, we have the Ghost Punching Scrappy, the Intimidating Intimidate, and the Protective Friend Guard. All of these are great abilities to have. Now, let's have a look at what this little feisty egg would evolve into. Well, I think most of you might know already. It thrives in the heat of battle, and it spreads an empowering aura that boosts ally morale. It cares deeply for its allies and will work together to defeat an especially strong adversary. Despite its dainty appearance, it will not hesitate to use its strong wings to batter its opponents. These wings can help it fly at speeds faster than a race car. Here we have Togetic. Like Togepi, Togetic is also energetic and fierce with sharp angled patterns. Oh, and it has a little helmet on its head, which is really cute. For stats, Togetic gains a bit more bulk, but still has the greatest emphasis on its physical attack and speed. For abilities, they remain the same. As you may notice, Togetic is a fighting flying type, giving it an immunity to ground moves and certain effects. Also becomes weak to electric and ice moves while taking neutral damage from rock moves. So let's see the final stage of an evolution line of fighting spirited eggs. This brave warrior utters a fierce battle cry to scare its enemies and empower its allies. It battles by ramming into its targets and striking with its huge wings. Togekiss appear whenever there's a great conflict or strife and will lend its assistance to kind-hearted and brave people in need of allies. A fellow noble fighting flying type that Catauli may have fought alongside. We have Togekiss. I mean, no joke, this does remind me a bit of Catauli a bit. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then I'll just plug in my episode. You might see in the eye icon here. Anyway, I love this design. Compared to the soft round shapes of Fairy Togekiss, the fighting Togekiss has sharper shapes and patterns. The black patterns add to the fierceness of this design, which I'm guessing stem from that helmet of Togetic. For stats, Togekiss is fast and packs quite a punch, although it's frail specially. For abilities, we have the same regular abilities, but we have a new hidden ability, Battle Cry, offering offensive support to its allies. For moves, we have a lot to choose from. Now, you might be wondering, why does it have fighting moves despite the lack of fists? Well, the other Togekiss can learn them. And since this Togekiss is a fighting type, you know, the symbol being a literal fist, it makes sense, and I find it quite funny. I definitely suggest using Togekiss as a physical sweeper, with moves like Brave Bird, Close Combat, Play Rough, and Rock Slide. However, you also have Roost for recovery. If you feel Togekiss needs a bit more of a boost, Tailwind and Agility can boost speed, while Swords Dance and Power Punch can beef up a bit further, or a lot further if you're, well, it depends what you're using. For counters, Psychic types that would outspeed Togekiss would mostly be legendaries, well, except Alakazam, but you know, I always say that. Other Pokemon that can potentially take down Togekiss include Boltund, Aerodactyl, Weavile, Talonflame, and Jolteon. The latter, I believe, would be the best counter, as it would be able to exploit Togekiss's low special defense. Overall, this Togekiss may not be invincible, but will fight its hardest for those it cares for. I would like to thank the Fastman27 for doing these designs. I know it's a lot more work for me, but I love doing Pokemon designs that have lots of evolutions or, you know, quite a few stages, you know, they're not just like one Pokemon spec, bang. Not to say I don't like the single stage evolutions or simple, no, not single stage evolutions, just the non-evolutioned Pokemon, but I like there's a bit more versatility or variety. It's really cool. Now, while I did give them advice while they were drawing this, the concept they did was theirs. And, you know, I really appreciate the work they did here. Thank you so much. And of course, if you want to check them out, which, you know, I always recommend, please check out their Instagram or whatever social sites they got. Why just I was just going to say something else, but it's just a pause, I don't know. Anyway, on to the final entry! Our final entry is an animal that we are certain has gone extinct due to human activity. Here, our final entry is not what you expect either. We have the splendid poisoned frog. Yeah, it's a frog. Yeah, they lay eggs. It's part of the rules! The splendid poison frog, as you may have guessed, is an extinct species of poison dart frog, infamous for their bright skins and lethal poison. Seriously, they're not gummy frogs, don't eat them. The reason why it and many poison dart frogs are brightly coloured is to warn predators of their toxicity. Scientifically speaking, they belong to the Dendrobatidae family, which includes poison arrow and all poison dart frogs. Wait, what? The frog had smooth skin except for its posterior belly and ventral surface of the thighs. I think that's a spot they breathe through. As you can see, the splendid poison frog was red, although it becomes entirely grey except for a few faint light spots when preserved. The tympanum, the eardrum, is round and had a slightly larger diameter than the eye. It was a diurnal animal, meaning it was active during the day. These frogs exhibited uniparental care, where the females deposit their eggs in leaf litter. Once the eggs hatch, the mother carries the tadpoles to small accumulations of water that formed in the leaf stem axils of the plants. The infertile eggs the females fed to the tadpoles. With the males, it is common for them to be very aggressive when defending territories that they use for foraging and oviposition. The habitats they lived in were humid lowlands with very wet montane forests. The splendid poison frog was formerly common, but due to habitat loss from logging and human settlement, a possible disease, and the pet trade, the latter being the biggest negative impact, the frogs disappeared. The last documented collection was in 1992 by the pet trade. Despite extensive surveys, the frogs cannot be found in the wild, being led to it being possibly extinct. EA Sciences states that there are currently 5 subpopulations that cover over 5,000 kilometers. However, they also say that their population status is unknown. I won't lie, this is probably the first time I've covered and possibly even known of an animal that went extinct due to pet trading. As you would have guessed, this is my entry, but I chose it myself to a degree, as my patrons didn't vote for the last few polls. But thanks to their influence, I am still doing an amphibian. So why am I doing the splendid poison frog is because it's not an obvious entry, it's brightly coloured, and I have come up with some ideas for the Pokemon designs around it. So, let's see what this splendid little frog would look like as a Pokemon. Considered the original Bloiama, these variants have incredibly toxic skin. They contain enough toxins to kill 4 adult elephants. These Bloiama live in colder regions, covering themselves in snow for warmth. They are the only forms of Bloiama to be incapable of climbing. In specific areas, such as the Glimwood Tangle, Bloiama adapted to host fungal spores with no consequence. In fact, they would have adapted to prey on the fungus of Paris and Morlul. These little cuties, I mean, maybe not the left one, but that's just my personal opinion, I'm Bloiama. Yes, I decided to do forms which I'll explain more about later. For now, I just hope you find them cute. Also, no, they're not going to be biped. Seriously, you can only take so much after the 5 fighting type starters. So let's cover the, quote, regular variant first. For stats, it has good physical stats with decent special defense, but is slow and can't spit poison very well. I don't think it's a poison spitter. For abilities, we have Water Absorb and a new ability, Poisonous Skin. Basically, it's like Poison Touch and Poison Skin combined. For the Ice form, its stats are more defensive with good special attack and HP, but terrible speed. For abilities, we have Snow Cloak and another new ability, Icy Skin. It's like Poisonous Skin, except it can freeze the opponent. For the Fairy form, its stats are mostly on speed and special attack, but is frail in its physical defense. For abilities, we have Cute Charm and yet another new ability, Glittery Skin. I thought to reintroduce the Bane status from Halloween 2021, associated with the alchemy types. Alright, you've seen all these cute little frogs? And yes, as I said, they do evolve, but not into bipeds. So, let's see what they all look like, shall we? The Pokemon inside the hard shell on Phroax's back appear to be some kind of shuckle, adapted to become immune to its host's toxins. In return for staying in Phroax's shell and feed off some of the nutrients stored, they aid in Phroax's hunting by shooting toxic barbs that are able to kill their target in less than a minute. Squostfo are covered in a substance similar to snow, but are actually a form of foam they secrete. This is still considered snow as they consume over 1 kilo of snow a day to maintain their warm, snow-like coat. Spleegia were once considered mythical creatures with their large horns and vibrant wings. They prey upon Togetic as a primary source of food, but are nevertheless gentle creatures. These 3 Pokemon are all inspired by the Amphitheater project. Yep, I have really took my inspiration in very weird places. I'll put a video about it in the eye icon. You'll find a website as well in the description. So, for Phroax here, I was inspired by the Inhabited Lorge and the Catastrophic Phragon. The former hopefully explains the Shuckle-like Pokemon. Squostfo is based on the Foaming Trogglefolk, the Foaming Squander, the Eon Toad, and the Arctic Phragon. This was the easiest design to do, simply because most of its body is covered in snow. Also, I wanted it to look like a bison, kind of. It hasn't got the horns, but not the big horns. For Spleegia, I was inspired by the Splendid Phragon.
Of course you did.
Yup, I just had to use it, not just because of the name, but they are just some of the most gorgeous creatures. And it works well for the fairy variant. I wanted to go with something equine with bright fungal elements like Togetic. Also, the color palette reminds me a bit of the Yu-Gi-Oh monster, Galaxy Photon Dragon, which it wasn't intentional, I swear. Okay, I'll go over each one of these Pokemon, one at a time. For Phroax, its stats are mostly on bulk and good physical attack. While its regular ability remains unchanged, Phroax's hidden ability is upgraded to Toxic Skin. In case you're wondering, the recoil happens if this Pokemon's ability activates, no one else's. So if there's 2 of these Pokemon on the field, they only recoil if their individual ability activates and not the others. I hope that makes sense. For moves, we have quite a few to choose from, although I suggest contact moves if you want to ensure poisoning. Leech Life also offers recovery. For Squostfo, its stats are tanky with low speed. As before, the regular ability remains unchanged, but the hidden ability gets an upgrade. I thought the damage could work similarly to Frostbite. Again, the recoil is individual. For moves, we mostly have bulk, but a good range of physical moves as well. Frost Armor is a good ability I suggest using. For Spleegia, its stats are mainly speed and special attack with good physical attack, but terrible physical defense. For abilities, it's the same as the other 2. Glimmering Skin recovers the lack of physical defense and complements its good speed. For moves, again I wanted to introduce some alchemy type moves. We also have the powerful Spore and other moves that offer the greatest versatility of all the 3 frogs. I'll be honest, I'm not going to go over the counters of these Pokemon as I feel this video is going on long enough as it is. But anyone who knows a little bit more about competitive Pokemon than I do, please let me know what you think these Pokemon would be like in the competitive meta. Seriously, I'm not like the expert on competitive meta, and I'm partially a bit lazy too actually to look it up. It's a big topic though. As I stated before, my patrons did have a partial choice in these entries. This isn't due to any restrictions I put in place in that, but because I had to set deadlines for the votes, the later votes didn't really get any results. But I'm happy I had a little bit of freedom to choose what I wanted to do. Not that I don't like my patrons choosing for me, but I just thought it makes a change. But yes, I'm still happy with how these designs look, and I hope you like their shinies as well. There's a lot of blue, because blue poison dart frogs are gorgeous. Although, I wonder if they could get yellow. I don't know. If anyone has any better suggestions, then please let me know. And of course, if anyone wants to, you know, become a patron and get some perks like seeing the designs early and seeing behind the scenes stuff, I'll admit a lot of this is still in the works, but I'm getting there. I am getting there. Yeah, so please check out my Patreon in the description below. Minimum cost is only $1. And of course, I'm happy to hear what you would like to see from my Patreon as well. So please let me know. Yes, I am quite aware of Easter being, well, a long while ago now. I think like a couple of weeks now. But nevertheless, I hope everyone had a great Easter holiday. Or I hope you guys had a great time celebrating just the beauty of spring. Anyhow, before I wrap up this video, what animals would you like to see in this series? Please let me know down in the comments below. It doesn't have to be anything specific, just you can be as general as you like. If you enjoyed this video, then please don't forget to give it a like, and if you'd love to see more from me, then you can subscribe, and if you want to get notified, then click that little the blonde song, not the blong song. And if you want to follow me on my other sites, then you know you can find those in the description, alongside the other artists. And if you want to support this channel even further, then please consider becoming a Patreon. I mean a patron, why did I say Patreon? Well, please check out my Patreon. As I said, I am looking for suggestions for how to improve it in that. I just have been like very busy, just, well, trying to get the content done really. And yes, thank you so much for watching this video. In the past, present, or even future, I will see you there. Bye!